Hello, welcome to Yoga with Mercedes. Today's class is a restorative yoga class to help calm the nerves. While we set up to get started, check around your space, make sure that you have props to support you. Know that in the restorative practice, we're going to be in each posture for a longer amount of time. You might want to grab a bolster or a pillow if you don't have a bolster, a blanket, and a couple blocks are really great props to have for today's sequence. So go ahead and let yourself get situated. Find a comfortable seat. And as you set up and allow yourself permission to come into your physical body for our practice today. We're going to use a little bit of transitional time to just bring awareness to how it feels to come into stillness. And as you come into the stillness in your body, I'd like to offer you a little reading from a book that I really enjoy. It's called Meditations from the Mat. It's by Rolf Gates. And today I'd like to share with you the idea of showing up. You have to keep showing up, being open, and doing the work. The journey into the self is not a group experience. It's a solitary work, but so many of us are afraid of being alone. So you need to experiment. The whole process of following these spiritual instructions has a lot to do with conquering our fear. So that quote was written by Beryl Bender Birch, and the following is by Rolf Gates. One of the questions I return to regularly is, what am I afraid of? Of course, I see many people in class who are afraid of falling out of headstand or pitching forward onto their faces in crow pose. But this isn't exactly what I mean. Every few months, I seem to see anew that there are many aspects of my practice, either that are stuck or that I approach in a manner that ensures that I will only scratch the surface. Recently, I caught myself saying in a class in which I was a student, I never do it that way, and I have been successful. In that moment, I brought myself up short and asked, have I? Have I truly lived up to my potential? The answer was no. In fact, one of the reasons I'm such a devoted practitioner is that I know I have not lived up to my potential. In that moment, I took one more small step on the solitary journey into myself. I caught myself in one of the habitual attitudes that have blocked me from new ways of experiencing myself and my potential. What am I afraid of? What are you afraid of? Now we know that fear can be very limiting. How can we apply that into our restorative yoga practice? Sometimes we're afraid of the stories that we tell ourselves, and we've been telling ourselves these stories for so long that we believe that this is a part of who we actually are. So today I'd like to invite you to start to think about how you can change your story. Know that we're going to be in each posture for a longer amount of time, so you'll have time to sit with yourself and reflect on your story and the changes that you might want to make. So let's get started. We'll start our first restorative posture today in a supported chest opener. For this posture, you can use a bolster, and for those of you that don't have a bolster, I'm going to show you a different option for today. So taking two blocks, the blocks are going to go under the back of the heart and the head, and I'm going to position a blanket on top of the blocks. So setting up one block for my head, you can put it in whichever direction you feel is best going to support you. This is going to depend on if you feel the block on your neck. I recommend not positioning the block on the neck. So one block for the back of the heart, one block for the back of the head. Now to make that more cushy, we're going to position a blanket on top. Remember, you can do this with a bolster. This is just a different variation. All right, so that's pretty sturdy. Now from here, you're going to turn away from the blocks. The knees are going to be bent. Feet are going to be open the width of the mat. So take the pinky edges of the feet all the way to the edges of the mat. Start to lean back. Position yourself so that you're bringing the back of your heart onto that first block. And then as you bring your head back on the block, simply notice how this feels. With the feet wide, bring those knees in towards each other. Let the hands and the forearms rest onto the mat. Feel a lift at the chest. Here we're getting our chest opener, which is also a heart opener. In this way, we're able to cultivate love and compassion. Now, if this feels good, you can stay here. You can also play around with taking the arms up and back. Maybe bending the elbows. Now that's going to give you more extension for your spine. You'll also feel this in the shoulders. Some of you might explore taking your hands to your elbows. If that feels passive, stay there. But if you don't have enough propping to support your arms, then let them go so that they can connect to the ground, so that they're not hovering in space. This way you can fully relax. And if that's too much, maybe the arms come out so that the wrists are in line with the shoulders. Nice gentle stretch for the shoulders. The main focus is on opening the chest and opening the heart. Sending our love out into the world. We need it so much. We need to share our love, and we need to be open to receiving love. Simply melt down. With each exhale, let tension melt away. Allow yourself to soften into this shape. Feel the support of the props below you. As we lay in stillness, check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what are the stories that I've been telling myself? What are some stories that no longer make sense for me? Where can I make shifts and changes? Allowing myself to transition and transform. Let the weight of the world melt off your back, into the mat, into the ground, into the earth. Let it go. Breathe. And breathe with intention. Inhaling to the top of the breath. Exhale, open the mouth, let it go. Continue to deepen each breath. Continue to exhale slowly. If your arms are overhead, gently start to bring the arms down by the body and rotate the palms facing down. Use your energy on an inhale breath to lift your head. And then pressing the forearms to the ground, start to lift your chest. Now it will be helpful here if you walk your hands towards your body. Press your hands to the mat and then lift up even more. Take a pause here. Feel the shift in the spine. As you inhale, press your chest forward. And as you exhale, bring your belly button towards your spine. Inhale, open your heart. Exhale, belly button to spine. Inhale, open the heart, send it forward. Exhale, round the spine. Walk the hands towards the hips. Bring the feet in front, soles of the feet together. Now, know that we are going to come back into this same setup, so we're going to leave it there. However, before we come into more extension for the spine, we're going to offer ourselves flexion now that we've had a neutral spine, just to get a counter stretch before spending more time in that extension. So now honoring the inner thighs and the hips with the soles of your feet together. Bring your thumbs to the arches of your feet. Know that if you've got a really big gap underneath the knees, if the knees are up really high, that just means that the hips are tight, and when you fold forward, they're going to open more. So don't worry about that. But you can position blankets or pillows underneath your thighs if you feel like you need some support there. All right. So from here, take an inhale breath. As you exhale, hinge at your hips, fold forward. Feel the flexion in the spine. Feel the spine opening up in this direction. Let your torso lean forward. Maybe your hands stay at your feet, with your forearms resting on your low legs. Maybe you take your hands and your forearms to the mat. Whatever you choose, let your head lower down. And you're just lowering enough to feel sensation in the back space, at the inner thighs and in the hips. We've got external rotation for the hips. If your knees feel uncomfortable, send your feet further away from your torso. That'll open the angle at the knees, so that will be less compression. If you're ready to go deeper on your next exhale breath, see about folding a little more. Remember, we're looking for a stretch. We're looking for sensation. Don't push yourself to the point of pain. If you feel any discomfort, back out. Find your breath. Lengthen the breath. Know that by lengthening your breath, you're calming your own nervous system so that you can downregulate, reduce anxiety and stress. Take another deep round of breath, inhaling all the way to the top of the breath until you can't take in any more air. Exhale, release, let it go. Inhale, slowly start to lift your head up. Exhale, walk your hands towards your body. Come back into that straight spine. Feel the hips rooted down. Feel the crown of the head rising up. Back to a neutral spine. When you're ready, take your hands outside of the thighs. Lean back, open the feet, bring the soles of the feet back to the mat. Take your hands behind your hips. Heel toe the feet open, bringing the feet back to the edges of the mat. Now we're going to lay back down, bringing the back of the heart and the head onto our props. So this is going to be a variation. We're taking a supported, reclined hero pose or half hero pose. The upper body stays the same as before, but the legs are going to be different. So if you want to watch me first, I've connected the back of my heart and my head onto the props. Now I'll bring one foot closer towards my torso. I'll reach my hand, see if I can grab my ankle. Now you can lean to the other side to lift the hip and bring the foot down to the ground. So I've got the top of my foot on the mat. You can rotate your toes out if that's more comfortable. Now, if you're trying to do this pose and this is way too much, you've got a really deep stretch for the quad, and you might even feel this in the psoas. If this is too deep, you can lift your torso higher, changing the propping. So try that. If you're pretty open in the quads and the psoas and you can go deeper, then you can lift your opposite foot, bring it above your grounded thigh, and feel a more intense stretch. Now, this is really important that you take your time to set yourself up in a way that you're serving your body. Maybe your foot needs to move further out. If your foot comes off the mat and you've got a hardwood floor like I do, it'll be more comfortable to position a blanket for your foot to rest on. So take all the time that you need to figure out how the positioning, how the shaping is helping you and your body. So remember, foot further away from the body, less compression for the knee. Foot closer in, deeper quad stretch. Alternatively, the foot that has the sole grounded to the mat can heel toe out further, coming off the mat. You can play around with opening that knee wider and noticing how the sensation of the stretch changes there. Enjoy this shape. Enjoy the variations. Let yourself wiggle around and move if you need to. Check to make sure that you're continuing to lengthen your breath. Notice that when we're in postures of stillness, sometimes the thoughts start to really move and flow, and we can really get into that headspace. Try to just redirect your attention to your breath. Relaxing into the shape with each exhale. If you notice yourself really starting to open up, let yourself deepen further. Find little shifts and modifications that are working for your body. We're in our last minute on this side. Know that it's time to start to come out of this side. We're going to do that carefully and slowly. If the knee that's lifted is splayed out, bring it back to center. Maybe you take your hand to support the foot, lift the knee, send the foot away from your body, bring the sole of the foot to the mat. Back to neutral legs. Take a full round of breath here. And then heel toe the feet back to the width of the mat if they're not already. Setting up now on the other side. Lean away from the foot that you're going to slide towards your hand. Lift that foot, position it outside of the leg or the hip. Bring the top of the foot or the arch side of the foot down. Place propping anywhere you need, under the foot, under the knee. Open that foot out wider if you need to open the angle at the knee. Let the arms rest. come into this side. Remember the options. Opposite knee can splay out to go deeper into the quad and the psoas. Once you find that sweet spot of a nice stretch in your stillness, stay there. Enjoy the opening, the releasing of tension. We're halfway through on this side. Breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Few more rounds of breath on this side. Notice this time, less intensity of the stretch. The back. Back is a little more open now. Take your palms outside of the hips. Reach for the foot outside of the hip. Lift it up as you lift the knee, bring the sole of the foot to the mat. Take a breath here. Rotate palms facing down. Inhale, lift your head. Continue to lift the chest, pressing palms to the mat. Extend the arms straight. Round of breath here. Walk the feet further in front. And bring the legs in front of you. We're going to come into a seat, just like we started. As we come into our seat, just position the legs however is comfortable. We've done a lot of extension. We've had axial extension. We've had flexion for the spine. We're gonna open up the side body with some fluid movement before we come back into a longer held posture. So make sure that you've got space on either end of your hips. Inhale, let the arms rise up, fingertips towards the sky. Exhale, lower one hand down outside of your hip. Inhale, reach your fingers up. And as you exhale, reach overhead. So your top arm is above your ear. Both hips are grounded. You can gaze up, or you can turn your head to look down. That's going to be more comfortable if you have any neck issues. And as you reach, feel a nice stretch from your hip to your arm. Reach, reach, reach. Breathe. And on your next inhale, let the arms rise up to center. Exhale, set it up. Take it opposite direction. Opposite hand grounds down. Inhale, top fingers reach up. Exhale, lean over. Notice the side. It's very possible that this side might feel different. Keep both hips grounded. Reach and stretch. Release any congestion from the side body. Notice how good it feels. And then inhale, sweep the arms up. We'll take one more in each direction. As you come into the pose, take 3 rounds of breath. After your third exhale, inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, set it up, opposite direction. Inhale, reach the fingers up. Exhale, lean over. Noticing it's a little easier this second round. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, the hands come down. So now we're going to come into one of my all-time favorite postures. It's been one of my favorites for years and years because I really like hip openers. This is a deep hip opener. So I'm going to give you 2 different options. The first option is going to be for a deeper stretch, and the second option is going to be more comfortable for you if you have trouble stacking your legs. Know that in the first option, you'll be feeling a deeper stretch in the hips, and in the second option, you'll feel also a combination with the hamstring. So starting from a seated position, one of your legs will become parallel to the top of the mat. So move one leg out. Now this leg that you have in front of you, flex your foot. Position yourself so that you have your ankle and your knee in line with each other. If your heel is coming towards your body, send it out. We're closing that gap there at the knee. That's compression. Open the foot out. Open that angle. Look down. See that the ankle is in line with the knee. Now we take the opposite leg on top to stack. So the top ankle is above the bottom knee. The top knee is above the bottom ankle. This is Agni Stambhasana, otherwise known as double fire log. When you look down in your lap, you should be seeing an upside down triangle. Flex your feet to protect the knee joints. You might already be feeling a stretch in the hip of the leg that you have on top. Now, if you don't feel a stretch, take your fingertips to the mat, take an inhale breath. As you exhale, lean forward. Notice as you lean forward, you're going to deepen that stretch. So it's up to you how much you want to fold forward depending on how deep you need the stretch to be. Some of you might be able to fold forward so much that your forehead taps the ground. Or maybe you support your forehead with a block. Now, if you've tried that and that's really not working for you, that's okay. We'll keep the top leg with the knee bent. The bottom leg extends straight. Now, in this option, as you fold forward, you're feeling a stretch at the hamstring of your straight leg. Same idea with the upper body. Let yourself fold forward to deepen the stretch. If you start to feel out of control and uncomfortable, then you're going to want to back out. Honor yourself. Take the shape that your body is really responding well to today. And once you set it up and decide what that is, let yourself breathe into the pose. Soften, relax, breathe. Your next inhale, lift the head. Continue to work towards a straight spine. We'll come into the other side. So check how you have your legs, how you have them now. We're just going to reverse it. We're going to come into the opposite side. So the top leg is going to lift if you're in the stack. If you're working with the stack, the leg that was on top now grounds down. Remember, to set it up, you want the ankle in line with the knee. And now we'll bring this leg on top. If your top knee is lifted really high, that's all right. Hips just tight. When you fold forward, it's going to lower down. So looking down at the legs, the top ankle is resting on the bottom knee. The top knee is above the bottom ankle. The feet are flexed to protect the knee joints. The legs are stacked. Agni Stambhasana, double fire log. From here, when you're ready, fold forward. The hands can reach forward. The hands can walk further out. Remember, if the stacking is not working for you, it's no problem. Take that bottom leg to extend and straighten. With the legs straight, your ankle should be in line with your knee, knee in line with your hip. And then fold here. Let the hamstring open. Know that if you change your mind at any point in the stretch, if you want to take the other variation, you're welcome to do that. Your body will let you know. Continue to practice bringing awareness to what your body's telling you it needs in your physical practice today. Support that need with your breath. Practice letting the thoughts go just as easily as they come in. Relax. you inhale, lift your head. Exhale, walk the hands towards the body. Straight spine. Deep round of breath here. Allow yourself to unwind the legs. As you unwind the legs, rotate yourself to a kneeling position. Bring the knees open the width of the mat. Bring the big toes together. So now you've got your hips on your heels. We'll fold forward towards the props that we set up in the beginning of our practice. So we want to bring these props towards our inner thighs, or we can scoot up towards the props. You can use the blocks with the blanket setup that we had before, or you can bring a bolster instead. Really up to you. We're going to come into a supported balasana. Balasana is the Sanskrit word for child's pose. So let's bring our props towards our torso. I'm just going to slide my whole setup towards my inner thighs. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty nice lift for me. You can let the lift be higher up if you need to. And then from here, we're going to fold forward with a rounded spine. Now, as you fold forward, if you notice that there's nowhere to position your head, you can invite another prop to support. And then just rotate one side of your head to rest down. I'll let you know when we're halfway through so that you can rotate your head. Now, depending on your practice, you might not need any propping at all. You might be able to come all the way down into a really grounded child's pose. If that's the case for you, and you feel your hips on your heels, let one side of your head meet the mat. Settle in. With the knees wide, feel the hips open. Feel the flexion of the spine and the stretch going into the low back. Inhale deeply. Exhale, open the mouth, take a sigh of relief. Come back to the stories that you tell yourself. Ask yourself which ones are no longer serving you. How can you change your story? How can you shift, transition, and transform? time now to lift the head and take the opposite cheek to the other side. Letting this cheek ground down. If you're in the grounded option with your body directly onto the mat, I'd like to offer you another variation of bringing your arms to your thighs. I really like this option because it feels like I'm offering myself an assist. I feel like I'm able to open up even more. I feel completely grounded. And bring your awareness to noticing if one side of the physical body feels different than the other. And simply honor that observation. Take deep, full, intentional breaths. If your arms are supporting your thighs, take the palms to the mat. As you inhale, disconnect your head from the mat or the props. Lift your head. Walk your hands towards your body. Give yourself a moment back into the straight spine. Allow the crown of the head to reach up towards the ceiling. Allow the hips to ground down. Lift the hips off the heels, bring the feet out to one side, come back onto a comfortable seat. Now from here, we're gonna come into a flowing spinal twist. Make sure that you've got a comfortable seated position where you feel fully supported. Inhale, reach the arms up, take up all the space around you. Exhale, twist to one direction. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, twist opposite direction. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Let's take one more on each side. Movement following the breath. Inhale, arms rise up. And then exhale, bring the hands down. Deep inhale to the top of the breath. Exhale, release. Now check where you're sitting on your mat. I recommend sitting so that you can open your legs the length of the mat. So that when you open your legs apart from each other, you can still feel the heels grounded on the mat, using that as a cushion. Now notice that you might be pointing or flexing your feet. You don't need to do that. Restorative yoga is all about being passive and letting go. So just let the feet move however they naturally want to be in a still position. Feel the legs opening wide, but don't open them so wide to the point where they're really disconnecting off the mat. We don't want that gap at the thighs, at the hamstrings, or the calf muscles. The legs need to be grounded. So if your feet are too wide for that to happen, just shorten the distance, bring the feet closer together. Now, coming back to our propping, if you still have the setup of the blanket on top of the blocks, you might position that in front of you to support your chest or your arms or your head. Alternatively, you can also use a bolster for this. When you're ready, walk your hands forward, hinge at the hips, just lean enough to feel the stretch. Your body's much more open now. Walk the hands forward to go deeper. Lower the head down. Lower the body down. Change the propping as much as you need to support your body. If you don't have props, that's okay. You can press palms to the ground, keeping the arms extended. Now take a scan of your body. Check in. Notice if there are any parts that are holding on, that are holding tension. Let that tension go. Relax. Letting the tension go will allow you to have this stretch. Stretching the inner thighs, the hamstrings, hips, glutes, back. Passive posture. Lots of opening, releasing, stretching, removal of stagnant energy happening in this shape. Check in with yourself. Notice if you need to switch the propping. Now that we've had a couple minutes here, you might notice that you can fold deeper. If you're happy where you are, stay there. Notice where your thoughts are. The current thoughts that you're having, is this somewhere you want to stay? Or would you rather bring your awareness to your breath, to tuning in to the sensations of the physical body? Know that we're coming into our last minute of this pose. And gently start to lift the head. As you lift the head, walk the hands towards the body. Take your time to find your comfortable seat. Keep the legs wide. Spine is straight. Now, as you inhale, point your toes. Feel a stretch at the top of the feet. As you exhale, flex your feet. Feel a stretch at the calf muscles. Inhale, point. Exhale, flex. One more round. Inhale, point. Exhale, flex. Now we're going to come into one more posture before we come into our relaxation pose, our final relaxation pose of Shavasana. They're all relaxation poses in restorative yoga. This next one that we're going to do, also, I'm going to give you two options. The first one is passive. It will be more along the lines of our restorative. The second option is if you want a little more activation, if you want to go for a really deep stretch for your back space, particularly the upper back. So if you want the more gentle option, we're going to take legs up the wall. So you'll need just enough wall space for both of your legs to fit together. I'm going to demonstrate for you up against this wall. And I'm going, instead of the mat, I'm going to position a blanket. That's going to be a little more cushy for your tailbone, but either option works. So I'll bring the mat right up to the wall. And then I'll scoop myself so that I've got one hip up against the wall. Now, as I bring the hip up against the wall, I'm really gonna support myself by bending my elbows, coming onto my forearms, and at the same time, I'm gonna swing my legs up the wall. It's just a little awkward because my blanket is sliding around, but it's all good. Just shimmy yourself as best you can, as close as you can to the wall. Legs are together, feet are together. You can come back to pointing the feet as you inhale and flexing the feet as you exhale. And taking a couple more rounds, stretching the legs, the lower legs, the feet, and then relaxing the feet. So legs up the wall if you'd like a gentle inversion. If you want to try the other option, you're going to bring yourself back onto your mat so that you have space, because the legs are going to fly up and overhead. So first, position the legs up so that the feet are towards the ceiling. Legs are together. So this is just what we're doing in the option of legs up the wall. Now in this option, you're going to lift your feet as you keep your arms grounded down by your sides. As you start to lift your feet, your tailbone's going to lift. Your hands can catch your low back. Legs can come overhead. Maybe the toes tap down. So now we're in Halasana, plow pose. If you're taking this option, keep your head straight. Avoid the urge to look from side to side. We want to keep our neck protected. Also, if you're in this option, make sure that you're feeling the weight at the shoulders, not in the neck. If you're feeling weight in the neck, then you've gone a little too far. Deep flexion for the spine. Deep stretch for the upper back. Now, because this one's a little more intense, if you're in the Halasana option, slowly start to come out. Slowly connecting your spine bone by bone until the tailbone meets the mat. Bend the knees, bring the soles of the feet to the mat. Now, if you're at the wall with legs up the wall, you can stay there for your Shavasana time if you want to, or you can come back onto the mat to set yourself up. In Shavasana, you can extend your legs, creating space between the feet. Arms are by the sides. Hands can move away from the body, creating space at the armpits. Positioning yourself in a star shape, tucking your chin towards your chest, lengthening the cervical spine. Now we're going to invite a bolster onto the mat. If you've got low back issues, we'll use the bolster, blocks, pillow, chair, whatever you have to the back of the knees to close that natural gap that we have there at the low back. Take the option that feels good. Know that we'll be here for the longest amount of time within the poses that we explored today. Offer yourself a blanket or a layer if you feel the need. And then close your eyes and simply relax. Take a deep inhalation all the way to the top of the breath. Exhale, let it go. And again, deep inhale all the way to the top of the breath. Exhale, sigh of relief. Inhale fully. Exhale, sink down into the ground. Relax. stay here in stillness and enjoy this time of presence with yourself. Deep inhale. Slow exhale. Notice your physical body and start to wiggle the fingers and toes. Just light movements. Bringing awareness of how your body is positioned, how the props feel underneath and around you. Allow yourself to stay in this reclined position. Once again, I'd like to offer you meditations from the mat. This book is all about daily reflections on the path of yoga. Yoga is not only a physical practice, there are many different aspects to it. Coming back to the quote and the reading that I offered at the beginning of our practice, feel free to listen in again or tune me out if you prefer. You have to keep showing up, being open, and doing the work. The journey into the self is not a group experience. It's solitary work. But so many of us are afraid of being alone. So you need to experiment. The whole process of following these spiritual instructions has a lot to do with conquering our fear. One of the questions I return to regularly is, what am I afraid of? Of course, I see many people in class who are afraid of falling out of headstand or pitching forward onto their faces in crow pose. But this isn't exactly what I mean. Every few months, I seem to see anew that there are many aspects of my practice, either that are stuck or that I approach in a manner that ensures that I will only scratch the surface. Recently, I caught myself saying in a class in which I was a student, I never do it that way, and I have been successful. In that moment, I brought myself up short and asked, have I? Have I truly lived up to my potential? The answer was no. In fact, one of the reasons I'm such a devoted practitioner is that I know I have not lived up to my potential. In that moment, I took one more small step on the solitary journey into myself. I caught myself in one of the habitual attitudes that have blocked me from new ways of experiencing myself and my potential. What am I afraid of? What are you afraid of? I hope that as you move through the rest of your day, you meet these fears, that you work hard to move through them. Know that it's hard when you're doing the work. And then eventually, the work will be done. And then it won't be hard anymore. Keep practicing. Thank you so much for your presence. Namaste.